Another year, another 16 days of activism campaign against women and children. The theme for this year is Socio-Economic Rights and Empowerment to build women's resilience against gender-based violence and femicide. Connect, collaborate, contract.
Yeah. So that entire two sentences...
Quite the mouthful.
That's the theme, yeah. This official launch is happening at Nasrec in Johannesburg this morning. And in fact, that's where we find our reporter Tshegohaco Moagi this morning for a sense of what's to come. And Tshego, you know, I suppose you and I were in the makeup room this morning just talking about your coverage of the story today and how we as women living in South Africa feel about 16 days of activism. What's the sense that you have this morning of how the country feels about this campaign, especially given the crime statistics released this week?
Well, good morning, Michelle. I mean, that very issue of 16 days of activism, another campaign, another year, another campaign of this very nature. And it really begs the question as to what is going to happen that would be different, really, in this particular year of 16 days of activism against the abuse of women and children. But also, are we once again going to see a spike or an increase in the number of women who actually get abused, who get killed, who get raped during this time, because that is often what we've seen in the past couple of years. But to give us more details on the purpose of this day and what the plan really is to try and bring an end or curb gender-based violence, I'm joined by Shoki Chabalala. She's the DDG for Socio-Economic Empowerment of Women in the Department of Women. Chabalala, thank you so much for your time this morning. So just give us details. I mean, it's another year. We're having another 16 days of activism campaign. The purpose for this year, what are we hoping to see that will change somewhat the stance on gender-based violence?
Noting that today, it being the 25th of November, we're launching 16 days of activism on no violence against women and children. And our focus is mainly Women's Trade Expo here at Nasrec. We have managed to bring women from various sectors in terms of businesses, the SMME sector, the cooperatives, women in informal trading sector, so that they come here with the purpose of connecting, collaborating, and contracting amongst themselves. We have encouraged members of society to come to purchase goods from these women, but it's a programmatic approach as opposed to what we would always do. We meet, we get speeches, we talk about these issues, we leave. So this is part of an ongoing programmatic response in tackling gender-based violence, particularly in translating key issues arising from Pillar 5 of the National Strategic Plan around economic power. So we have a number of programs as government that are more long-term, issues that relate to the Women's Economic Assembly, where we actually assemble women and we make sure that amongst themselves they talk about what is it that they would like to prioritize, which companies they would like to partner with, and we bring private sector as well to pledge how much of their procurement are they going to actually make sure that women benefit out of that. And that is partly in response to the 40% pronouncement as pronounced by the President. So it's all about creating this enabling environment in the supply chain, value chain part of it, but also making sure that women are part of the business that we are offering as government. They trade with government, they trade with private sector, and they are not in the periphery. But financial inclusion is key at this point in time for women.
That, of course, will form some kind of transformation within the economy of women being able to stand up for themselves. But we often see DTG during the 16 days of activism campaign where we're seeing more and more cases of gender-based violence against women and children specifically as well. Why is it that that is the case? Do you think there's more that can be done from not just your department, but from government as a whole?
Well, this is one period where there's heightened awareness around issues of gender-based violence, where we continue to encourage people not to look away, but to speak out as well, and families to support. So we are not surprised when we see people coming to the fore and reporting, but at the same time, we deal with members of society who are very angry. Our South African men are very angry, most of them, and we are trying our level best to deal with the whole issue of the psyche of the perpetrators at this point in time. What is happening when it comes to men making such decisions in terms of affecting women and girls. So we are coming up with programmatic interventions that are targeting men and boy children, because there are good men out there. But how do we then take those good men to come on board and help us change the mindset of those who are still patriarchal, those who are using culture and any other excuse to be abusive to women? So yes, indeed, it's something that we don't appreciate when they come and report, but at the same time, we appreciate the fact that they are not confined to their homes and they are not quiet, they are coming to the party. What is key from us is to make sure that each time as they report, we have rapid response teams. We support them through our rapid response teams. Sometimes we accompany them to the police stations, because some of them will raise concerns around how they are being handled at police stations and all of that. But we also follow through on those cases. We take the case numbers and we follow through on those, so that support is ongoing throughout the process.
Thank you so much, DDG, there in the Department of Women, Shoki Chabalala, just giving us details about what the plan is for today, but also in response to why we often see an increased number of gender-based violence cases during this very campaign. Michelle?
Yeah, absolutely. Some important discussions hopefully taking place at that event. Tshegohaco Moagi, thanks very much indeed for that update.